Here we go. I see the little blinking red dot. So yeah, let's kick things off, and if more people are to join, they will do so as we get going. But thanks a lot for joining this lunch. It's the third time we organized this. It's under the umbrella of CMX, but basically the idea is to invite community pros, offer us a chance to connect with one another and learn from each other as well. And at the beginning, it was very informal and just a casual talk as we're eating. But now I think the community spoke and asked that we had maybe like a specific topic for sessions or a specific guest. So last time we had Sharath, who told us about his community journey. And today we have the chance to have with us Tanja Laub. Tanja is a community consultant, community entrepreneur. She's been doing that for years, more than a decade actually. And she's based in Germany and very active in the space here, and about to publish, I believe it's her first, but like a book about community management, both in English and in German. So excited about that. And today, yeah, she agreed to join us and to talk a little bit about her community journey, but especially also her framework. So when she meets with different organizations, whether private companies, governments, NGOs, to talk about community building, she has different frameworks, and one of them is the circle framework. And I won't spoil the surprise. So, but just want to thank you, Tanja, for joining us today, and very much looking forward to an interactive session around and your framework.
Yeah, thanks. Hi. Great to be here. Great to see you guys. Yeah, I'm going to dive right in. We kind of have three sections. The first one, Hugo asked me how I got into our industry, how I got connected to building communities and why I'm doing it. The second part is about what I kind of learned or my highlight learnings and all those years. And the third one is my framework, which I'm going to publish. So as Chrome is a bit weird while presenting, don't be surprised, I'm not going to always see your faces. So if you have a question or want to interact, I'm trying to schedule the screens around. I have two over here, but Chrome is kind of making it a bit hard today to actually see you and present because I can't click on a presentation. So yeah, but what about me? I always want to work in the media business. I haven't shared my screen yet. Wait a second. That's going to make it easier for you guys. So, I always want to work in the media business. That was kind of my plan. I didn't want to do anything else. Just work in media, be a journalist, something like that. But in doing so, I didn't get a spot at university, so I had to wait because I knew I wanted to study, but I didn't know exactly what, but I knew it shouldn't be business. So in the end, I studied business because I had a graduate program about media communication. And today I'm quite glad that's what I did. So for my first internship, because I still always want to get into the media sector, I applied at RTL. And at that time, they just had launched Clipfish, which was supposed to become the German counterpart of YouTube. As probably all of you don't know it, you've seen how far it has come. Even so, it's been around for a couple of years and has done a pretty good job over here. It's not really well known internationally. But on my first day at that internship, we were asked who's going to take care of the emails of all our users. So my hand went up. And that was when I became a community manager, because from that point on, I was responsible for everything that framed around the members. When we developed the portal, when we got into administration, I was the one responsible for all the setting. I was the one responsible how we engage with the members. I was the one responsible for all the volunteers and all that kind of stuff. So my job was always learning by doing. It could have never been a better school for it, because over there all the teenagers, well, 11 years, 12 years, 13 years, trying to figure out who they are and how far they can go on the internet in terms of community management. That was kind of a really good education. I think there's nothing that can happen that I haven't seen so far. Yeah, and after that, everything is kind of history, if you say so. I build up communities for RTL later on, which is kind of the biggest media, one of the biggest media corporations in Germany. I worked for Douglas, a perfume chain. You probably know Sephora. Germany, it's kind of the Douglas is kind of the European counterpart. I've been chairwoman of BVCM. That's the German Community Manager Association, who looks at people who work professionally in the industry, are spoken for and to help them in the jobs and roles. I even had my own event, Community Gipfel, but it was all German speaking. We did it twice, but then the pandemic hit, or the pandemic hit in our second year when we had to go digital. And since 2010, have my own consultancy agency and helping companies in all kind of industries to build better communities and to actually tell them what a community is, because most of the time that's kind of the problem.
Tanja, if I can interrupt, a quick question about the BVCM and that national network of community builders, because I always like to zoom out and look at maybe the state of the industry, right? Like, where are we in the community industry? And we have some reports, one by CMX coming out every year, that gives us a little bit of a sense of the temperature, right? Like, okay, is it exploding like during the pandemic? Is it currently like slowing down? What was your experience when you had this really macro view at the Bundesverband? Is there like a lot of community builders in Germany, or is it still very much like you said in the education sort of nobody knows what it is?
Yeah, well, it's kind of the understanding of building community is quite different over here in Germany, and that's one point I'm hitting on the other charts, because over here a lot of people still think when building community, that's what you're doing when you have a Facebook or LinkedIn page or a LinkedIn profile. For them, that's community management and building a community. Over here, all the influencers on Instagram are talking about their community when it's just their followers and their fan base. So BVCM, it's the abbreviation for Community Manager Association, but it is actually the Association for Social Media and Community Managers. So most people in the industry or in the association were social media managers. If you were lucky, a bit of their job was community management, like the interacting dialogue part in a social network. There are a few community builders, but not really a lot. The thing with building communities in Germany is kind of really hard, because we are really far behind if it comes to external communities. We have a few well-known ones. One big portal, which has been around for 22 years, just announced they're going to close the door at the end of the year, Motor Talk. So we have a few B2B. Where we are really good at are internal communities.
Mm-hmm.
There we have some great examples. But in the external community world, it never really picked up over here. So it's a shame. Yeah.
But it's an opportunity as well. I mean, if you truly believe about community-driven businesses, then it's like maybe a reframing where there's not yet a lot of competition for you as a consultant.
Yeah. It's a really long way to go. And kind of the pandemic fast forwarded the whole industry about 20 years. So now people start to get understand what community is, how it can help them. But they still don't grab the whole potential and what's all behind it.
Yeah.
So that's actually my slide that I was sitting at, that community building has so much potential, but it is still overlooked today. And it's especially overlooked in Germany. People don't see the value and they underestimate it. They underestimate the work that goes into it. Even so, we are telling the stories year after year, what kind of potential it had. They don't see it. And it's getting better, as it said, just with the pandemic. But still, there's a really long way to go, especially over here in Germany. And the pretty interesting thing was that we just talked about Rebellion, that I met so many people on Rebellion conference that are based in Germany. They are not German, but they lived here and they are building communities here. And I didn't know any one of them. And I usually know the industry over here really well because of the association, but that were all people that are English speaking, that are building communities, but somehow we haven't met yet. So that's really exciting for me. Yeah. So I brought along three of my most loved or hate sentences from my experience the last couple of years. I'm interested what you are making out of it. The first one is, an audience is not a community. That's what I was hitting at before. And I think when people see me over here in Germany, that's the first sentence that comes into their mind, because wherever I am, that's the one I'm pointing out. Because everyone over here talking about building community, they're talking about their Instagram channel, about their personal LinkedIn page, about their Facebook page. Yeah, our community, and this is our LinkedIn community. And no, it's not. It might be a network. It's your audience, it's your fan base, it's your network, whoever, but it's not your community. So that's kind of really not in the head of the people. When you explain it to them, they do get the difference. And I always use as an example a concert, like when the band is on stage and everyone is interacting and engaging, and the audience is really having a good time. But after the concert, the band leaves the stage and the audience is going back home, going to another concert tomorrow. But there's a small amount of people, like the hardcore youth fans, that are still standing. They do know each other. They are interacting with each other. They keep on going, even so the band has long gone. And that's your community. So you can build a community out of your audience, but it's not quite the same. Not the same at all.
It's an interesting, in our LinkedIn thread that we have, like I posted this thing from Richard Millington about these definitions, right? Like a community is when the members interact with one another, and he was kind of being a little bit controversial, saying like, look, this is like, it's holding the community sector back almost to be like so pure about the definitions, and look at community is everywhere and it's anything, and it's just basically a shared identity, doesn't matter audience, community. He was just saying like, if we're too narrow in the definition, like sometimes it can it doesn't actually matter, which I thought was an interesting take. I'm not even sure yet if I agree with it or not, but like the point was kind of, it stimulated interesting exchanges.
I've seen the post and I still have it on my to-do list to kind of answer to him. He is doing an amazing job. I even have a cooperation with him. I brought his online courses to Germany. So we do know each other pretty well, but that's really the one point I don't agree with him. You can take things from community building to engage an audience. You can take the experience we have to interact with your audience. And you can even do, for me, there's a difference between community dialogue and community building. So community dialogue, or if you want to call it community management, is what you're doing everywhere when you're interacting. But really building a community, for me, is a step further. And that's what we usually always talk about, building community. And I think you have to be specific about what you mean, because there are two different strategies. They are completely different. Each of them is fine, but you need to know what you're doing. So, and do get his point that he says, this is our chance. We should everyone tell, okay, communities everywhere, though they grab the concept, see that we are capable of doing it. But I think we still have to be specific about what is what. We can use community building techniques or parts of them, but it's not the same as building a community.
Maybe he's just trying to broaden his market base, like his total addressable market, by saying it's actually not just that. It's like it's really big.
And that's a point I totally get, but we still have to be clear what we are talking about.
I agree.
Tanja, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So, hi, my name is Jeroen. I'm from Belgium, and the aim is that I launch a new CMX chapter in Brussels. So that's why I'm here to get some insights on how you guys are doing and learn from you. But related to your statement, Tanja, it also made me think. I think it's in the book of Spinks, the Business of Belonging, where he talks about the different levels of engagement. And I would think that in every community, you will always have these different levels of engagement, and you will always have a core group. Yes. And let's be realistic, that will only be 10%. That really interacts, let's say, in the way we would like the whole community to interact. But there's always people who are rather new. They come, they try to associate with it. Maybe they come back, but why do you not include them in your community? They will always be there, and they have specific attention points. And it sounds a bit like you want to draw some kind of a line, or what is the statement you want to make?
I'm trying to learn, because you're interacting differently when you're talking to an audience. It's like when I mentioned with the band before, it's a much broader audience. You have many more people. It's more about reach. In a community, it's more about closer connections. In an audience, the people don't necessarily know each other. But in a community, it's about the connections those people have with each other, that they know the other people. I don't know the people in the audience, but I do know the people in the community. Like, the one is just the information from one person to the audience, and the other one is when everyone is interchanging with each other.
Yeah, it's a unilateral versus bilateral, or actually more than bilateral. It's also between the members themselves, right? So
yeah, exactly. And in a community, you're doing all the things like an onboarding process and that kind of thing. And I wouldn't do that with an audience.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to be. I don't want to exclude certain people in my thinking who are just getting acquainted with the community and don't behave yet like the very interactive core people. So I want to make sure they feel part of the community, and I bring them to a higher level of engagement.
Yes, that's perfectly fine. Okay. Make them welcome. That's perfectly fine. But you just need to have a strategy for both. And you need to know how to attract the one people and how to attract the other people.
and it's highly dependent on what community we're talking about, right? Like the post that I put in the chat, that was like about brand communities. So it's like people that buy Lululemon, Adidas, whatever. You're going to have a much different approach if we're talking about a cancer survivor society, you know, like it's not, you're not positioning this the same way. It's not, you don't need the same level of care with like someone that bought a pair of Pumas than you need with, you know what I mean? So it's highly context dependent.
Yeah.
Check the post and check the comments. Like a lot of people were kind of counter, or it's an interesting discussion. Thanks for touching on it.
So the other two are social media marketing is not community management, and customer service is not community management. Both points we kind of already talked about it, like posting on social media and deciding what to post in which channel is not community management. And giving an answer is also not community management. With community management, you go one step further. You're really interested what your target audience is telling you. And yeah, that are kind of my three most heard sentences or most hated sentences in the last couple of years when it comes to building communities in Germany. The thing is, building a community is a long and strategical process that needs time, and it's really underestimated. It's underestimated what value it can bring, but it's also underestimated what belongs to it and what you need to do to actually build a community. So that's why I built the community circle framework. It's something I tested in the last couple of years during all my workshops, because all the time when I thought about building communities, it came back to those elements. I do love the community canvas, and I kind of use it a lot, and I think all of you kind of know it. But what I realized is, for people that are not in the industry, the canvas is too complicated. And it's also missing a couple of points. So that's why over the years, I started to develop my own thing. And I'm really glad I can present it to you today. And not only that, because I'm actually here to challenge you with it, or challenge me with you. Because so far, all the time when I presented it, that was with people that are new to the industry. That was during my workshops, my trainings, a couple of friends, a few people in the industry. But over here, you're the pros. You know what you're talking about. So I'm really curious about your opinion of the framework, which is actually, it isn't published yet. So I've used it in my workshops, but I'm going to publish it within the next couple of weeks. So as I said, whenever I talk about community, for me, it comes down to 4 core elements. One element is the strategy. You need to know where you are going, with whom you are going, and how to achieve it in order to build a community. You need a culture, something that unites the community and defines its identity. You need a technical or whatever platform. It doesn't have to be technical, but you need a location, offline or online, where you can meet, exchange your ideas, exchange your experiences. And you need a community manager. A lot of people always say, oh, it's going by itself. You don't need anyone to take care of. You don't need a community manager. Yes, you do. You need someone who is standing behind it, who always gives some fuel in, who cheers the people on, who opens the frame so that everyone else can be there and get something out of it. That can be one person, it can be multiple people, but you need some people who are behind it. So I kind of split those 4 elements up. Like the strategy is everything that comes to purpose and goal. Your target audience, who are they? What motivates them? What is their intrinsic motivation that they are coming to your community? You need resources, if it's time, if it's budget, IT, whatever. You need to know where you're going. You need to do your analytics, even so if you don't like data or some love it. When your community is built up, you can do some marketing. And a community, it's not a product. It's never done. So it's a living organism that constantly changes and develops. So that's the first element of the community, or one of them, because they're all interchanged and interwoven. So the second one is the culture part, where you have the sense of the community. This is where I belong. This is where people trust me and I trust others. This is where I can be myself, where I can exchange my ideas. That's where I have a safe space, and the environment is really welcoming. You need a core group. You need a group of people who builds with you the community. So you're not starting all of a sudden big and they are the people, but the people need to get to know each other. You need a group of people who starts the community with you, who brings life into the community. And you need a really well thought after onboarding process, because it's much easier to get people into your community and then show them what they can do and to engage them. If they're there for a couple of months and then you start engaging, it's much harder as if you start with an onboarding process. The third element is the location, the platform. That can be, your main platform can be in-person meetings, that can be a group in a social network, not a page, or it can be an own platform. I'm talking here about the main meeting point. The best communities happen when they're digital and offline, but you need to have one hub, one main place where people can always interact and exchange. And it's clear to them that's the main spot. And then you have digital tools like analytics tools, moderation tools, and that kind of things, or Zoom, BB, whatever, that can help you to foster the engagement in your community. And third, you have the community manager. You have different kind of variations. You have people interacting on social networks. You have people acting on own platforms. You have those ones that have an internal target group. You have those ones that have an external target group. And depending on what kind of community you have a complete different job. And you have a complete different strategy. You need different kind of capabilities like moderation, communication, empathy. You can do it all on your own, or you can have different roles in your community. You have tools that help you in building the community, like an etiquette or an editorial plan, a crisis communication plan, a playbook. And you need system workflows that are within your organization so that all the knowledge that comes from the community gets back into your organization and vice versa. And only when those 4 elements come together, if they are all in place and not one of them is missing, only then you can build an engaged community. Because if you're missing out one of those elements, it's not going to work. And if you have those in place, then you can think about things like your content and strategy plan, like gamification, a super user program. You can talk about how you best communicate and collaborate. You can do events and activities, and you can empower your users. If one of those 4 elements is not there, no matter what kind of tactic you do, it's not going to work. And this is not step by step. It all happens at the same time. You just need to be aware that everything of it is actually there. Because if you don't have a strategy, you have a gathering without a clear direction and not a community. Because this shared vision drives member engagement, it fosters intrinsic motivation, and it secures the resources for community success. If you just have any kind of activity, you're not going to get resources from your management. And if people don't know what they shall do in the community or what kind of value the community brings to it, they're not going to stick around for a long time. If your culture is missing, then you have an audience, you don't have a community. That's what we talked before. You're lacking the meaningful engagement, the shared experience, these authentic connections that actually define a community. If you're missing the technical platform, then people don't have a place to meet. Then you have more like a loose network and not a cohesive community. You need a permanent space where people can interact, interchange, get to know each other. And when a community manager is missing, the community lacks its direction, coordination, support. It's kind of adrift and disconnected because the community manager helps and guides the members and is there for them and is overlooking the community. So when it all comes together, that's when you can have a really engaged and active community. Yes, that's kind of what kept me working the last couple of years. And I'm really curious if you have any kind of questions or any kind of words or thoughts about it.
I like you said, the simplicity in a way. So not having too many pieces to the puzzle. I think it's also sometimes a mistake, right? People over-engineer or over-complexify when, like, for example, when we talk about a platform, right? Like they start by that, or there's like these mistakes we hear a lot as professionals where, okay, you shouldn't try to do too much at the beginning. It's really focusing on purpose and why do people gather, and not trying to right away get into tactical engagement, stimulation or whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So feedback is I like the simplicity.
Thanks.
I like the way that you showed the example of it being a puzzle, and if a piece is missing, then the community's kind of not working cohesively. It's kind of clear from the way you've put it together, and the fact that it's this sort of evolving loop that just has to kind of keeps going to maintain your community. It makes sense to me.
Anything that you find missing or inconsistent or unclear?
Well, examples are always nice, just to, because community, again, I feel it's become such a buzzword. It's like innovation. Like, okay, what are we talking about here? So I think this would help give color. If you say like a piece is missing, or if you say, or maybe taking it from the other side, and having positive examples, not like, oh, this company has a shitty community because they. So maybe focusing on, oh, this is an example of a community with a really strong culture. Example, Exhibit A. That could be something. Or I think the question that often comes up, at least in my discussions, is, okay, what's the minimum I can, like, what's a minimum viable community here? Like, okay, I don't have the budget for a community manager. Like, is there a way then that I can give that to one of my existing employee? Or because people want to get, it's the challenge is always getting from 0 to 1. So from really having just the bare minimum to get going, and then get some results, and then build a case for more.
Yeah, that's always the question for everything. How much does the platform cost? Which platform does I start with? Do I need a community manager? Do I really need a goal? Do I really need a strategy? Can we just start? So, yeah, I see what you're getting at.
Well, on the right side of your puzzle, strategy and culture feels much more kind of strategic in a way. And then the other side is more operational, right? So community manager and platform, that's kind of the infrastructure and the operative side. Whereas the other one is more, you said like there's no order, although I would maybe contest that you need to start with strategy and culture and purpose. Like it needs to come from the, like if you don't have the buy-in from senior management, for example, like you're just going to be not really working towards anything.
Yeah, you need to start with the purpose and the target group, because otherwise you can't really know what kind of platform you're going to need. You don't know how the culture will be, but they kind of all interact with each other and are interwoven. That's more what I meant.
Yeah.
It's not that you first do all of the strategy part and then you go to the culture and do all of the culture part and then you go all to the technical part. It kind of happens. You have a goal and you have a target group, and then the things above, things from all four elements are going to happen. And the culture, I mean, it develops. You can't just create it. You can help when it develops, but it's not like you like a strategy. You say, okay, here's a strategy. Even so, a strategy is living as well, but the culture really, you're setting the frame.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tanja. What I like your question. What is missing? Would you have an easy way to help people do like a quick audit that helps them to see, okay, I have a big hole here, or I need to start investing there, like with a simple questionnaire or something, to help them make some kind of a status of today, and where you would then prioritize where they should start looking at?
Yes, it's actually what's going to be one of the next steps, to actually develop a checklist, and say, okay, there are the most important points, and to break it down and see, okay, this is what you really need, and that's how far you can go. Because I mean, with the onboarding process, you have so many different kind of elements how you can do an onboarding. So everything of this is possible from small to big. And yes, it would be cool to have something like, okay, this is where you stand, that's where you're missing. So
yeah, it would be nice if you could recognize a situation like, if this is how your community feels like today, then probably you lack strategy, or you probably lack culture, or it makes me think of a model that I've seen that talks about growing a business that also had 4 building blocks. One of them was cash, another one was strategy, another one was operations, and then there was a fourth one. And it really described situations. It says, if this is how your business feels like today, then probably you should look at cash, or you should probably look at. I liked it very much.
okay, cool, thanks.
And a second thought, I personally find the strategy part a very difficult one. So I wonder whether it goes beyond the model, my question, but how do you help people get their strategy right, basically? Because what I often see in my own environment is that people have an idea for community, but then nobody is coming to the community. So
yeah.
So okay, what's going wrong there?
Yeah, this is kind of the framework, and then you really have to dig into the different kind of points. You have to look at, okay, have we a clear goal? Do the members know what kind of value they get out of here? Is it clear to the organization what kind of value it's coming to the organization? So you need to go into each of those bubbles and then really kind of work on them. And not everyone is going to need all of the bubbles. Not everyone works with a content plan or an editorial plan. So you really need to check, okay, where we are strong, and what don't we need? Like, you always need a strategy, yes, and you always need culture, a technical platform, and a community manager. But it depends on how big you are in the variety. Like Lena asked what kind of technical platform I would recommend, and that's something I can't answer. As long as I don't know what your goal is and who your target group is, I can't tell you this is the go-to platform. There are so many great platforms out there, but it really depends on your special community, which one I would recommend. And there are different white label ones, there's software as a service, there's open source, there are the groups and social networks. So as long as I don't know what your resources are and where you're hitting, I can't tell you what's the best platform for you. I actually have a blog article. It's on German, but with Chrome you can, or I think you are even German as well, Anja. And with that, you can, with Google Translate, you otherwise can translate it. I'm going to post it in here. And then you can see it. And there I have all the different kind of software platforms, with some which are available on the market. I can post it in the chat as one. Yeah, there we go. Any more questions or any more comments about this?
Yes. The core of the circle is engagement. I think there's an ongoing conversation in the community world about the focus on engagement, as if this is like the main goal. My personal opinion, like, I think sometimes it's the wrong thing to focus on. And Rosie Sherry also had a post on LinkedIn a few days ago. She was saying, like, what should we focus on outside of engagement, and asking openly if that was the right thing to focus on. Because engagement comes, it's an outcome. It's actually more of a byproduct of when you generate value and when you fulfill your purpose and your mission towards your members. So that's like, engagement is what you want. Like, of course, if you're a business, you want like the most open rates, the most likes, and just people to come to your events. That's a given. But how can you actively focus on that, or generate that without it being so I think going one level up is maybe something to consider, right? Like, how do you get engagement? What's the lever you need to pull on?
Yes, I know what you mean. Outcome is the thing we need to focus on. Outcome is the thing we need to get to. But if we don't have any engagement, how am I going to get any kind of outcome? So, but if the purpose is clear and you know what motivates your target group, then you are actually going in that direction. So this model also says not every kind of activity is good for your community. You really need that activity, what is important for your goals. And that's when I come to the outcome part. But if you want to have a certain outcome, you can't have it without any engagement. No matter if that engagement is a discussion or if someone is writing a paper or whatever you define for yourself, what engagement is. I'm not talking about big numbers here, but you need those people that interact with each other in any kind of level, because if they don't, you won't have any kind of outcome.
And so the question is kind of how maybe like how do you get engagement, or the why? The why to me is at the core. It's like why are you building a community, or why are members in your community? And then if you're able to nail that and give them that, then I think you get engagement. Like it's a result kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just think it's maybe a framing question actually, more than like I agree with the engagement being like it's a clear sign that something is happening and that you're generating value. So it's just like looking at it from the other angle.
Yeah, and you really have to be specific about it, and you have to tell what you mean by engagement.
Yeah.
Because if people think 100 or 1,000 people are coming to their event, that's great. Well, no, if they're just there and not doing anything, that's not great at all. Doesn't help you. So I do like the discussion that's going on about engagement at the moment, but I still think engagement is important, but you need those people to interact, because otherwise nothing is happening. Yeah. You mentioned before that I wrote a book. That's the English title of it. What you see is the German version. That's the one I'm having here. It's really a guide for beginners, and the English version probably will be out at the end of August. I'm still waiting for Amazon to come around and tell me, yeah, everything is fine. At the moment, they're kind of making me a couple of problems with the design elements and that kind of stuff. Even so, it's printed perfectly fine, and I have it here. Emerson tells me, no, that's not working. We can't print it. And I say, well, you already did. But it will be around at some point. This is actually the first step, because my plan is to, this is a beginner's guide. And as you can see, it's kind of more like a booklet than a book. But I do want to write a whole book about the community circle, with cases in it, with examples, best practice, with the checklist and everything. So that's going to be the next step.
Congratulations, Tanja. It's not a, yeah, Elena also says like it's not a, I'm curious to know, like, how much time did it take you to write a book? Like, I feel like it's such a monumental or it's a big project, let's say, so
I can't really tell, because I've got that idea in my mind for years, and I started it several times. I even started it with a couple of colleagues, and we always stopped and wandered around. And then a couple of months ago, a friend of mine, who is also my strategic advisor, she said, Tanja, you need to write that book, and you need to write it now. You're sitting down now and you start writing. And so she made me write every week. And actually the idea was to publish the whole book. And then she came and said, no, let's do it differently. We start with a small version and get it out, and then we go with the bigger one. No, it's not possible to buy the PDF already, because I'm going to publish it all together. I hope that Amazon comes around today or tomorrow, so it can be out in the next 2 weeks. Yeah. So yeah, feel free to read it in German or English. It will be as an ebook and a printed one, so you can do whatever you want and need.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm going to stop the screen sharing, because I think most of us are connected on LinkedIn already. Otherwise, just write me a note. And yeah, it's better to see each other and to communicate. Yes. And thanks for the well wishes. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about the thingy, and it's kind of weird. I'm holding it in my hand since I think 3 weeks now, and I'm just waiting. I would have never thought that when I'm done writing it, the process after and publishing is still so much work and can take up so much time. It's yeah, a new learning altogether what you need to do.
So you got to promote it now? Like, is this the next step? You got to go on tour and just do a whole marketing push?
No, I'm not going to go on a book tour or something like that. Not really, but I'll probably have it with me wherever I go to show around. And it's actually something that I can give to my clients where they can read and understand. And what I'm hoping for is, that's why I started with the beginner's guide, that people see that community building is not just something you can just do on a whim. And because you like to do it now. It's a long strategic process, as I said, and you need time and you need to know what belongs to it. And I want to show people how much hard work it is, but also what kind of potential it has. So that's my goal for it. And as in Germany, there aren't really books. There are 2 books, but yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of it.
It's like, so do you have like favorite communities? Like we're in the final few minutes here. So any fun or inspiring communities out there, maybe in Germany or abroad, that you're like, everything they put out, it's just on the money. They know exactly like how it should be done. And do you have some examples like that?
What I really like in external communities is kind of the Lego ideas community, where people can submit their idea and actually get rewarded when Lego is putting it into the stores. And there are so many great examples regarding internal communities, like with Mercedes, Telekom, Continental. There are a lot of them in Germany. I do know them because I work with these people, but they are not really commonly known outside, even not in the industry, because usually you don't hear a lot about it. So that's also what I do want to make more public. What kind of communities are there in Germany, and what are they doing, and where they are really good in. Yeah.
These are communities of practice. It's like at Mercedes, it's like a community of engineers, of salespeople. Is it like user groups, or how does it work?
Most of them, yes. So most of them are a community of praxis, what I'm going to be showing. But there are also some communities that are more like private, even so they're are personal, even so they're in their internal ones, who are playing board games or that are for parents. And they show how they can connect the employees. Employees even switch jobs within the organization just because of those communities. And it wasn't about their profession, but because they were at their workspace, it always ended up talking about their profession and their job. But most of them, I would say about 90% are a community of practice, yes.
Okay, nice. Anybody has questions or anything for Tanja, as long as we have her? And if not, Tanja, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing some of your wisdom and nuggets with us, and showing us that yet to be released framework. So I think it was good, like interesting discussions and lots of food for thought. So thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it.
You're really welcome, and I'm looking forward to keep in touch with all of you. Thanks for bringing us all together, you and Nicole, who kind of said, "Oh, there's a bunch of people, and you need to get to know each other." So,
Nicola is a born community builder. She just gets people together, and it's a second nature.
Yeah. Not Nicole. Nicola.
Helping you all connect. Happy to.
Just for info, Jeroen, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Probably not. Sorry. Just because we have this team of this community builders in Germany. This thread going on LinkedIn where post about events or trying to get discussions going. So that's why it's not. It wasn't meant to be an exclusively German thing. I think Nicola started it, and she's a Brit. So.
Cool.
That's why we're talking about that. But you're free to join. You can join, and then if you come to Germany, you know a little bit who's who. All right.
Super.
Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining, and especially you, Tanja. And as I was saying in the group, it's going to be probably the last one for this summer. I'm going on vacation, and let's see when the next lunch is. I would assume in September, probably early September. So
Thanks, Tanja.
Stay tuned and have a
Bye-bye.
good one.
Goodbye. Thank you, Tanja and Hugo. Bye-bye.
Bye.